It's always a problem going to the movies. Are you a big movie guy? People don't show up on time. They'll walk in front of you during the trailer, which is the best part. I mean, there's so many. The things aren't even the movies that long. Why even bother to go? You could go for the snacks. That's true. Nothing like a good icy. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today I'm going to show you how to solve one of the, I think, most widespread issues folks are having when doing the Intune tenant-to-tenant migration solution that involves the provisioning package basically not joining the new tenant. So let's get into that. At this point, I would go to the movies for the snacks and then leave and just not watch the movie. Okay, so some of the, well, I shouldn't say some. I've been getting a lot of feedback from folks who are trying the tenant-to-tenant migration solution. And first of all, huge shout out if you're, just out there trying this, and I'm glad you find it helpful. But some of the issues are, well, I should say a lot of the issues are around the provisioning package, right? And this is the thing that puts the device in the new tenant because it contains the bulk primary refresh token. We've talked a little bit about some troubleshooting steps with it, and I'll throw those below. I did a video on it and wrote some pieces on how to go through it, but I think it's important to look at what's probably happening. If you go to entra.microsoft.com, go to all users, and if you're like me and if you've been testing this with a bunch of packages, you see all these. Now, what are these? These are essentially service principals, even though they show up as users. These are the Azure object that enrolls the machine and is privileged to enroll the machine. Okay, so if you go to all users and sign in logs, you'll be able to see pretty much everything. Now, this is where if you're having a lot of issues, you should see the package here. So this will populate in a second. So here, the user will be your provisioning package. Now, in my case, this was from yesterday. It looks like we had a success. But if you look at something that would say interrupted or failed, and you see the package, it should tell you what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, it's the conditional access, and it's getting hit with multi-factor authentication, right? This will also show in the Intune logs. So what we're going to look to do is pull those into the migration log so we can get everything in one place. And this shows you the application. It's actually called the Azure AD Join CSP. So it's really just policy. So it's a very unique way of doing this. So if this is the issue that you're having where this package is interrupted or fails, and you can see that it's because of conditional access, we need a way to exclude these packages from conditional access. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get all of these in a group. Now, depending on how much you've been testing this, I mean, there's really not a reason to have as many as I have here. Obviously, in building this, been testing it a lot. But even if you have, quite a few, because maybe they have a short-lived validity period, or you're using different packages for different, migration sources, it's a good idea to group them together. So I'm going to go ahead and make a group. We're going to do a new group, and we're going to call it migration package users. Group of service principals for PPKG. And this is going to be a dynamic user group. Okay, so let's add that query. So very simply, what we're going to do is here, I'm going to edit the group manually. So we're going to say, if the user display name starts with package, because they all start with package underscore. Okay, that's the first one. And the user principal name starts, I forgot my hyphen there, starts with package underscore. So that should be my group. We can validate that rule, and let's go ahead and do that. So let's take some of these, and let's take a normal user to make sure that they don't fit. Okay. Perfect. So it grabbed all the package users and it didn't bother Bob there. So I'm going to save this. Create the group. That group will take a moment to aggregate. So let's refresh. Migration package users, and let's take a look. So it's going to take a moment. It hasn't started the dynamic rule processing. So let's check in on it when it aggregates everything and see how we do. Okay, so it looks like after a few minutes, we have our group aggregated. That's 21 members. That's a lot of packages I created. All right, so how would this apply? If I go down to protection, conditional access, I have a dummy policy here and I put it in report only. This is a very good example of what we're seeing most folks have, and this is where things kind of get sideways. So this is a default MFA policy. So to give you some context here, what this policy is doing is it's saying all users that are trying to get to all cloud apps from any device, right? It's pretty straightforward, can be granted in with MFA, right? And this is an oversimplification of the policy, but you get the gist of it. So what's the problem here? The problem is the package is not a user. It can't interact with MFA. So I don't necessarily agree with this policy of having all users, all cloud apps. Like, I think we need to be a little more specific in what we target. But you can see not everything is here. So if we say select apps, and if we start looking for things like the CSP is not here for the Azure AD join. Intune is here, so that would be something you can exclude. Well, it should be showing up. No, it's not showing up at the moment. But essentially what you'd want to do is you would want to now, if you do have this policy, you'd want to exclude. So you would want to exclude the group we just made, migration package users. So if they are excluded from that policy, they will not be prompted for MFA, right? So they'll be authenticated in without an issue. So if you are seeing that, if you're seeing errors that are showing it's failing interactive MFA, give this a shot for the package. Or if you only have one package and you'd rather just put that in the exclusion, I think the dynamic group makes sense, because this way, if you have multiple folks testing, you'll be in a better place. But definitely give that a shot, and then you'll see it go through. At the very least, you can rule that out as an issue by coming into your all users and sign-in logs, and the next time you run your package, you should see a success, that the package was able to authenticate, and you'll see it would pass conditional access in this case. So all right, hopefully that helped. You get through the process. I know it was giving a lot of folks trouble. If you're having any other issues or have feedback or questions, as always, this should be the Discord link. So feel free to hop in and we'll talk about it.
1, 2,